by Andrasha Dorian, and it's happening here at the World Championship.
Not Rook A1, King G2.
Oh. After Rook A1, I was going to ask you about Rook A4, if black can keep the tension or create an A pass pawn, if Rook A1, Rook A4.
Yeah, that's what I was considering, that after Rook A1, it is, there are few options for black, but Rook A4 is something to think of, absolutely. I think it was very strong. Well, white
That
after...
could be the reason why he didn't play Rook to A1.
King G2. White wants to improve his king placement, which obviously in endgame it's very much advised. It can be a very attacking piece, and that's why King G2 was played.
We are going to discuss this position and also engines and technology in the chess world. Our special guest is a computer programmer from Belgium. He has created chess engines, but not only chess engines, chess and Go engines and programs. The latest one, I believe, is Leela Chess Zero. Leela Zero and Leela Chess Zero, an open source artificial intelligence program that Giancarlo will tell us more about. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I think artificial intelligence is such fashionable topic to say after AlphaZero success, AlphaGo and AlphaZero. Can you tell us, in your words, what is artificial intelligence and how is it that you teach these programs to play Go or chess?
Well, one of the breakthroughs that was made in the latest generation of programs is that the programmers don't so much try to teach them themselves anymore, but that we try to make the program figure it out for itself. One of the important things is that we avoid limiting to what we can imagine would be useful for the program. If the program can discover this itself, it might discover things we've never thought of.
So it's basically learning from its own experiences. That's why AlphaZero 2 was playing games against itself and learning from its own experience.
Yeah, so you play games against yourself, you figure out, I seem to be winning more if these and these positional features appear on the board, so I should evaluate them higher and work from there. Whereas before it was like a human who tries to imagine, okay, I have two connected passers here, there's nothing ahead, so probably this is something useful to evaluate. But if the computer can figure this out for itself, maybe it can pull in other aspects of the position that the programmer himself wouldn't think of so much.
And how does the evaluation go in artificial intelligence chess knowledge?
Yeah, sure. So it learns to evaluate the position by playing those games against itself. So it sort of figures, okay, I seem to be pretty likely to win if this or this kind of feature is on the board. So internally, the engine evaluates the position in terms of winning probability, which is a bit different than what we're used to, which was typically centipawns, white's half a pawn better, whereas an AI-based engine or Monte Carlo search-based engine will tend to evaluate, okay, I seem to be winning 60% of the time here, so I'm probably a bit better. But for people who would try to use Leela Zero in a normal chess program, we'll translate that percentage back to a normal centipawn evaluation, so it feels a bit more familiar.
This is also fascinating, and I just can't physically imagine how technology has gone so far, how we have reached that this is so advanced, and it's just the beginning of something more amazing. I believe that you are still improving all these programs. Can you tell us how people can access the Leela Zero and Leela Chess Zero, since it's an open source program?
Yeah, for sure. You can go to the website, alcazero.org, download the engine. There's a list of networks. You can look for the strongest network, or maybe try different ones if you want to have different opinions on a position. And it's a standard engine, so if you're already using something from ChessBase, you can just load the engine into the existing program, and it will work like a normal chess engine. So in that aspect, it's really easy. For people who want to contribute to the development, we're sort of reliant on a lot of volunteers who provide their computing resources. So there's also a client that you can run, and in this way your computer will be the one playing those games, to give the data the program needs to improve.
That was going to be my next question, because I'm fascinated by this idea that the engine is learning by playing games, more and more games. So basically, it's not like as other engines, like let's say Stockfish or Ripka, that you know their maximum strength. But in the case of Leela Zero, the more people use it, the stronger Leela is becoming, isn't it?
Yes, at least as we hope, of course. We have done several, like we have done a first run with like a first very strong network, which sort of put it in the top 4 of engines. There's been several more experiments to try to get better, like to push it to the top engines, and of course we hope above and beyond it. So that's something we hope that people will keep running the client, so there's room to experiment, because you have like a good result, but of course we want to go beyond that.
So what is the strength of Leela?
It depends on hardware, of course, like any engine, and it's a bit hard to compare to a normal computer because it prefers like a graphics card instead of a normal hardware. But it's very close to Stockfish. I think right now about 50 euro behind if you sort of have comparable hardware. There's some indication it should play stronger at longer time controls or in LLS, sorry. And it's also a bit more useful if you use like multivariation mode, which I know most chess players that are analyzing will tend to do.
Does it have a different level on a classical game or a blitz game?
Well, there's some indication like this style of engine should be stronger at classical time controls, although it also depends on the settings, and that's something like that's still being looked into.
The settings is the secret.
When did you create Leela Zero, and what was your inspiration? You yourself love chess. I believe you're a chess player.
Yeah.
So how did you decide that this would be your next project, creating the Go and the chess programs?
So it was quite a while back, I think around 2008, and I was competing in the computer chess area, and I decided I wanted to do something different, and there had been a large breakthrough in computer Go. They introduced the Monte Carlo chess, which is what Leela is actually based on. And I said, okay, now it's a good time to try something different, and I did this for a bit. But of course, Go is not that popular in Europe, so there's less opponents and things like that. And I went back to chess for a while. I think in 2011, I quit computer chess. But then when the first papers came out from DeepMind, first they were about Go. So I said, okay, this is like a really interesting development. I want to try this and see if I can replicate the results, which was in the end very successful. And then other people came in, like some of the programmers from Stockfish, Gary Linscott, they came in and they changed the Go engine into a chess engine basically. And then other people like Volkert came in, and he like changed the training code so it could train itself on chess games. Then from there we went on.
Why is it that it is such a big move in artificial intelligence that they are using games and chess? Why is it such a great testing platform?
Well, what always appealed to me, and I imagine it's the same everywhere else, it's that a very objective measurement of whether your idea works or not. I mean, if you think I have a good idea for computer chess, you can implement it. You can let your engine play against the existing state of art and then see, do I win or do I lose? So there's like a very, very hard feedback saying, okay, your idea is good, it works, or I'm sorry, it's a good idea, but it just doesn't turn out to work.
How do you think that these improvements, artificial intelligence, as we witnessed with Alpha Zero and Leela Zero, is going to change the chess world and how professional chess players think of their preparation? Are they using artificial intelligence, do you think?
I suspect some of them are, yeah, given the fact that we're here. I think the impact in the chess world is not going to be as huge as it was in Go. Go went from having like programs at the weak amateur level to like superhuman strength in less than a year. I mean, I think a lot of Go players are still adapting, like how do I analyze with a computer? I mean, probably everybody in this room is familiar how to do this for chess, but for Go this was new. I think in chess the impact will be a bit less because there were already very strong computer programs. I think the most important impact of Leela will be that this is a sort of completely independent development of everything before. Like the other chess engines, of course, they have like some small differences, some different behavior in some cases, but they're sort of all the same idea that's been developed on for so many years. Whereas in Leela's case, it's a completely different way of evaluating a position. So I think for chess players, it's very useful as a kind of second opinion. like, let's say Stockfish tells you this position is a drawish, but Leela says, well, actually, I think black's a bit better here. That's maybe a sign that might be something interesting to look at and see, like, who's right here.
While you were developing, did you have a professional chess player or team of professionals who helped you to develop it, or no?
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 No. I found it mostly more useful to be good at programming than having the human ideas.
Yeah, I was just wondering because, of course, with chess programs, I think they can be very close to the players. For example, Deep Blue, in those times, they had a chess team.
Yeah.
To advise all the evaluation and the settings and different things.
Yeah, the idea, the useful thing of a strong player was mostly to like figure out where the program's going wrong, or like which positional principles the program needs to start evaluating. But the knowledge about that is like been fairly well public, so that's never been a real limitation. The biggest problem was always how to evaluate that you've made the program better, because normal computer chess went in like very small increments. You have an idea, and it's maybe 3 ELO or 4 ELO better, and it's really hard to like evaluate whether have I made the program stronger or not.
Well, especially when we see programs playing, especially in end games, that is really irritating. Like you
like
have
this
only
one?
no, not these kind of ones, but the ones, for example, we have no pawns on the board or very few people, like queen end games with one pawn, and then the computers, they just make some completely unnormal, unhuman move, like queen to the corner, like far away from everything, because it says in 25 moves later it will be important defending the other part of the board. So yeah, this is something difficult to understand for a human, especially at this end of the game.
Yeah, at some point it gets really hard for the human to feed back to the programmer, like the program lost because it didn't evaluate this or that correctly. Like sometimes it's really obvious, sometimes it was obvious enough that I could see why my program lost. But in a lot of cases it's not obvious at all, and you have to try the ideas and have a good way to test whether they actually make it stronger or not.
So are you planning to test as much to make it better?
Well, as part of the development of Leela, like it's continuously tested against itself to see if the network has improved.
So it's playing 24 hours a day against itself?
Yes, I mean all the volunteers who run the client or their machine, they're both playing training games, but they're also playing test games, like to see if the network is stronger.
So what develops it better, if it plays against itself or against someone?
The idea is very much that it plays against itself. So it can also discover the holes in its own knowledge.
And why can the artificial intelligence learn better from itself and not from a human, let's say?
Well, mostly because when it's playing against itself and there's like a mistake made, it sort of knows where it's coming from. A bit difficult to explain, perhaps. I mean, if a human would play against it at this point, there's fairly little useful data for it to begin with, because it's already quite a bit stronger. And if the program, let's say, in the very beginning was very weak and a human plays against it, maybe he's going to win all games. So that there's also no useful signal for the program to know, okay, was this move better than the other because I just lost all games. And if it plays against itself, it always has an opponent that's exactly as strong. So it knows, okay, I won, so I did something well because my opponent is just as strong as me.
In terms of the World Chess Championship, I believe you have been following the games. Do you check it with Leela, what the evaluation would be?
Yeah, I check it with both Leela and Stockfish, like the two strongest engines right now, or one of the two strongest.
What did you figure out during the past 3 games? Do you remember any moment when you thought that, Leela would have won this game, but Magnus didn't?
Yeah. Obviously, the first game was actually very instructive, and I think it was a really good illustration why it's important that the analysts don't use engines. The computers were all saying like Magnus is +4, +9, depending on which program you ask. And some of the analysts were like, yeah, well, it's not actually that easy. He has to find the right moves. And we saw that even Magnus could not do it. So I think if you just only look at the computer evaluation during this tournament, you're like going to miss quite a lot of the things that are going behind the scenes. And sort of misunderstand how difficult the game can be.
Thank you for backing what we do. We never turn on the engine.
Well, probably it goes the other way around too. If you only listen to me and you don't look engines, it's also not going
Judith
to be
is an
100%.
engine herself, so obviously such a brilliant mind, she doesn't need an engine. But you're right that it's not about just the numbers and how winning his position was, but the human factor. There are two human beings, there's psychology behind pressure or the tension of the match. So it's not just a clear-cut number and it was winning and that's it. You mentioned that the more volunteers, the stronger this can be. So where can people join if they want to help you develop Leela Zero?
If they download the engine from the webpage, there's 2 executables.
And that's where they can just click.
Yeah, like one of them is the engine that you can use in an analysis program like ChessBase, for example. And the second one, which is simply called client. If you start that on your computer, the engine starts running, it contacts the server, it asks, okay, which network should I use and what kind of games should I play? So that's
And what are your expectations? How far can it develop?
We don't know. As I said, we should certainly hope to push it like above the level of the current engines. That would be nice. Yeah, we don't know what the limit is for chess, so there's certainly going to be quite a bit of experimenting to do also to see what improvements we can find.
My last question regarding Leela Zero is, do you have any other plans with Leela to use it in other fields? So this is now a chess program, you also have a Go program. Are you going to use it in other fields?
I suspect some people probably already did that. I mean, that's how I got pulled into chess. I was still a bit busy with Go, and then suddenly like Gary arrived and said, well, I've started adapting it to chess. I know the same approach has been used in other games, some well-known, some other less well-known, like attacks and things like that. I believe Othello, for example. I mean, the approach is very general. I think that was one of the things that DeepMind's work showed, that they started from Go and they sort of seamlessly went to chess and shogi.
So basically, this artificial intelligence can learn anything if it's programmed
not sure
well.
if it can learn anything, but let's say games in the same style or class as Go and chess and shogi are certainly very doable.
That is really impressive. Thank you so much for joining us, Giancarlo. Before you go, you need to tell us your prediction. Every guest tells us what result they believe is going to happen. I don't know if you can show you the current position.
Last time I looked at the position from today's game was extremely equal, so I would predict a draw, unfortunately.
I see you're not a big fan of draws either.
Yeah.
We all want to see blood on the board, but maybe it's not today, not happening today.
It depends, right? If it's a draw like in the first game, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, well, that show was actually of 2 games, I think, that single one.
2-in-1. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Giancarlo Pascutto, the author of Leela Zero, and now you know how you can help Leela Zero become even stronger. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I'm just fascinated by all the advances in technology, and I can't imagine how all this works because my mind cannot process it. That was AlphaZero and now Leela Zero, and they just play games against themselves.
I was playing games with myself and I was like...
No, until that part I can imagine. Like, I also played. I used to train, trying to improve by playing against myself or analyzing alone. I wouldn't say I was playing a game.
No, I was really playing.
Oh,
I was playing. I was like 6, 8 years old, something. I always
so
won,
that was
you know?
Judith Zero.
Yeah, so it was fun, but yeah, being serious about it, it is very impressive, and we don't know where it will get to, but it's very exciting. It's also very exciting for me that it's playing with itself, and that's the best training, and that's the best possible thing, because then it gets the understanding of the problems to be answered by itself.
And that both in the case of AlphaZero and now with Leela Zero, is that there's no human input. There's no knowledge that they program into this artificial intelligence. It just knows the basic rules and then learns by experience.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we got quite a few moves since then. I think we stopped after a takes b5, a takes b5, and king g2 happened, when we started to talk about all this incredible, exciting topic of artificial intelligence.
How many moves have we missed because of artificial intelligence?
Well, we missed 4 pairs of moves.
I think for the future of technology, that's all right.
And rook e d8 happened, controlling not only the a file, but Fabiano wanted to control the d file also. In these kind of positions, of course, the players has to understand that who does it favor if we have all the 4 rooks on the board? What happens if we exchange 1 pair of rooks? And I think this was the idea for black, that if 1 pair of rooks is exchanged, then probably it can favor black, or at least this is what both players thought. That's very clear, because Fabiano put rook e8 to be exchanged, and immediately Magnus played rook dc1 in order to avoid this exchange, because he believes that one of his rook is defending the b4, and it's a good serving good defensive ideas, while the rook on c1 will be attacking the c6 pawn. Black also played king g6. This we were talking about previously, that the kings will be brought up somehow more into the 6th rank or more into the center. But of course, black has no other way to activate, to make activity for his king than to come to g6, because towards e6 it's not a way for a moment.
h5 has just been played. So
1 second.
You are missing one.
Yeah, just bishop e1, attacking the pawn on c6. Black played rook dc8, defending the c6. That's quite logical. Rook c1 in order to try to double on c1. Rook a4 to put pressure on the b4 pawn. So for the moment, rook c1 is not possible, because black can take the pawn. King f3. Though it's interesting that black is not playing f4 first. I would also consider f4 and only after that king f3. But king f3 was played, and now h5. Well, actually, after king f3, maybe king g4 was an idea to continue for white. It would be, for example, a great location for the king to go all the way to f5. But I would have doubt that black would allow that in any case. For example, king g6 was also something logical continuation, I believe. Even to try to play f5, I would consider it.
Why do you think Fabiano prefers h5 to king g6?
I don't know. h5 is kind of surprises me, because I think it really surprises me, because I would go g4 with white. g4, and if black would take g4, king g4,